My family exploited my love and emptied my finances without a word of thanks, so I walked away and watched their carefully built world crumble to pieces. I'm a 32-year-old male, and have never posted before, but after the chaos that went down last month, I need to get this off my chest. Sorry for the wall of text, but there's a lot to unpack here. I never thought I'd be the guy who completely cuts off his family, but after what happened 5 years ago, I didn't really have a choice. My sister Haley, a 29-year-old female, has always been the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect husband, perfect everything. Meanwhile, I was just Mike, the son who couldn't do anything right despite busting my ass every day. It all started when I got my first real job out of college. It was nothing fancy, just construction management at a local building firm, but it was solid pay with good prospects, and I was proud. My parents, Bob, 58, and Linda, 56, never acknowledged it though. When I told them I got hired, all my dad said was, "About time you started pulling your weight." Meanwhile, when Haley landed her marketing gig right out of school, they threw her a goddamn party and bought her a new laptop. I didn't even get a congrats text. This kind of treatment happened my whole life. When I made varsity baseball in high school, my dad skipped the games to go to Haley's debate tournaments. When I graduated college, first in the family to get a degree by the way, they complained about having to sit through the ceremony. For Haley's graduation, they rented an entire restaurant for the party. Despite all this, I still helped them out whenever they needed it. When Dad decided to take early retirement at 57 for his back problems, which never stopped him from playing golf, their finances went to hell. They called me panicking about possibly losing the house, so I set up an arrangement through my financial advisor where I covered $800 of their mortgage payment each month. They thought the bank was working with them. They had no idea it was actually me paying. Then was Haley's situation. Her husband Jason is this finance bro douchebag who treats me like I'm some loser just because I work with my hands. Turns out Mr. Finance Guy had garbage credit. He begged me to co-sign for their BMW X5, and guess what? They forgot to make payments about every 3 months, and I ended up covering it so my own credit wouldn't tank. They don't even know I know about these missed payments because the bank contacts me directly. The biggest expense, though, was my parents' health insurance. Dad's retirement package had terrible coverage, so I added them as dependents on my premium plan at work, claiming they lived with me part-time. That's an extra $650 a month out of my pocket for years, and they had no clue. But the real breaking point came during my grandfather's final days. He was sick with cancer, and I was the one visiting him every day after work. Haley was too busy with her new job to show up more than once a week. When he passed, he left me his classic '67 Mustang that we'd worked on together for years. It was the one thing I really cared about, and he knew it. My family lost it. My dad literally screamed that it should go to Haley since she was always his favorite. Complete nonsense. My mom kept saying Haley needed it more, despite her driving that brand new BMW her husband bought her. I told them all to pound sand, the car was mine, end of story. That's when things got really nasty. 2 days after the funeral, I caught my dad messing with the Mustang's brakes while it was parked at their house, not adjusting them or something. He was actually loosening the brake line. I confronted him right there, and he just shrugged it off, saying he was just checking the brake fluid and I was being dramatic as usual. I took the car straight to my buddy's shop, and guess what? The mechanic confirmed someone had deliberately loosened the brake line enough that it would have failed once I got on the highway. They tried to kill me over a car. Let that sink in. That was it. I packed my stuff that night, got in the Mustang, and drove 500 miles to Colorado. I changed my number and blocked them all on social media. I didn't leave a forwarding address or anything, just ghosted my entire toxic family. The crazy part? I still kept paying their mortgage and health insurance. Call it guilt or whatever, but I couldn't stomach the thought of them losing their house or not having medical coverage. I just made sure they had no idea it was coming from me. For 3 years I had total peace. I built myself a decent life in Denver, got promoted twice at the construction company I joined, and even started dating a great girl named Tara, a 30-year-old female who works as a nurse. The only family I kept in touch with was my cousin Jake, a 30-year-old male who always saw through my family's nonsense. He moved to Denver a year after me, partly to get away from the drama too. Life was good, you know. I was finally drama-free. Then, last Christmas, Jake started talking about how my parents had been asking about me. He said they seemed different now and really missed me. According to him, my dad had some health scare, nothing serious, just high blood pressure, that made him reevaluate his priorities or some such. I wasn't buying it at first. I told Jake they could go to hell. But he kept bringing it up, saying maybe people can change, maybe they realize what they lost. After a few weeks of this, I started thinking maybe I should at least hear them out. What was the worst that could happen, right? So, after New Year's, I unblocked their numbers and sent a simple text to the family group chat. Hey, it's Mike. That's all I wrote. Holy hell, you'd think I announced I won the lottery or something. My phone blew up with calls and texts. My mom crying according to the voicemails, my dad saying how much they miss me, Haley acting like we were best friends who just lost touch. They sent gift baskets to my apartment. Jake must have given them my address. Offered to fly me out to visit, the whole deal. I kept things casual at first, brief calls every couple of weeks, basic updates on my life, though I was careful not to share too much. They seemed different. My dad didn't make any smart-ass comments. My mom actually asked questions about my job instead of changing the subject to Haley. Even Haley herself seemed less self-centered, asking about Tara and seeming genuinely interested. Things really picked up when they started talking about a big family vacation to Japan for New Year's. Our treat, my dad kept saying, to make up for lost time. I was skeptical at first, but after months of this new, improved family relationship, I actually started to believe they had changed. Maybe the time apart had shown them what they lost. Maybe that health scare really did change my dad's perspective. So after months of reconnecting with my family, the big Japan vacation was finally happening. I had been texting with my parents and Haley regularly about the trip details. My dad kept saying it was his big gesture to welcome me back to the family. They'd planned this whole 14-day trip to Japan over New Year's, Tokyo, Kyoto, Hot Springs, the works. I was still kind of cautious but figured I'd give them a chance. I even took 2 weeks off work, which was a huge deal since we had a major project starting in January. My boss wasn't happy, but I convinced him this family reconnection was important. Tara couldn't come because of hospital shifts, but she was super supportive, even helped me pack, and drove me to the airport. So, there I was, standing in line at Denver International with my passport and the printed confirmation email my dad had sent me. I'd spent like $800 on new luggage, winter clothes for Japan, and other stuff for the trip. I was actually getting excited about it, thinking maybe this really was a new beginning for us. When I got to the counter, the lady started typing my info into her computer. Then she frowned and typed some more. I'm sorry, sir, but your ticket has been canceled. I figured it was just some mix-up. Can you check again? It's a family reservation under Robert Walsh. She kept typing. Yes, I see the family reservation for the Tokyo flight, but your specific ticket was canceled yesterday afternoon. The rest of the party has already checked in and boarded. My stomach dropped. I stepped to the side of the line and immediately called my sister Haley, since she was the one handling all the flight details.
Hey, there's some issue with my ticket. They're saying it was canceled, I said when she picked up. There was this pause, then I heard this little laugh.
Oh, Mike, did you really think we wanted you there? This was Mom and Dad's idea to see if you'd actually show up. Guess what? You failed the test. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What the hell are you talking about? You abandoned this family for years. You think you can just waltz back in because you feel like it? Mom and Dad might be desperate enough to forgive you, but Jason and I aren't. We opened their eyes to the fact that you were just using them again. So you all planned this? Get me to the airport just to cancel my ticket? Actually, Haley said, sounding so smug, that was Jason's idea. We were all just going to ghost you, but he thought this would be more memorable. Have fun spending New Year's alone, loser. Then she hung up, just like that. I stood there in the middle of this crowded airport, surrounded by happy families excited about their vacations, feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. I tried calling my parents. No answer from either of them. Texted them both. Nothing. After everything I'd done to give them another chance. After all the we miss you, and we want to make it right talk. This is what I got. A deliberate setup just to humiliate me. I finally got a text from my dad an hour later. Haley told us what happened. Maybe this is for the best. We'll talk when we get back. Not even an apology, just Haley told us what happened. Like I was the problem. Like I somehow caused this whole situation. I was so mad I couldn't see straight. I called Tara sounding frustrated, and she immediately drove back to get me. When she heard what happened, she was livid. Like I've never seen her that angry. She wanted to call them and scream at them, but I told her it wouldn't help. The Uber ride back to my apartment before Tara could pick me up was just me sitting there in shock. 3 hours earlier, I'd been excited about reconnecting with my family on this dream vacation. Now I was heading home alone, completely humiliated, with 2 weeks of vacation time I didn't even want to take. That night, while I was looking through all the texts and emails about the trip, something clicked. Why had they been so interested in my job and finances over the past few months? Why did my mom accidentally open my bank statement when I had mail forwarded to their house? Why did my dad keep bringing up that I should add them to my accounts in case of emergency? It hit me. They hadn't changed at all. They just wanted access to my money again. The whole Japan trip was just a way to fully pull me back into their web. They never cared about reconnecting with me. See, what they didn't know was how well I'd done for myself since cutting them off. I'd moved up to senior project manager, invested smart, and was making almost 6 figures. Meanwhile, from what Jake had told me, my parents were struggling since my dad took early retirement, and Haley's husband, Jason, had lost a bunch of money on some stupid crypto scheme. They didn't want me, they wanted what I could do for them. The same nonsense as always, just with a new angle. I sat in my apartment that night, watching my phone blow up with messages from Haley, all saying stuff like, "It was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. And we were going to book you on the next flight. Can't you take a joke?" My parents still hadn't directly messaged me. Cowards. That's when I made my decision. I texted my cousin Jake, "You were wrong about them changing. They just pulled the cruelest prank ever. I'm done for good this time." He called me immediately. "What happened?" After I explained, he was silent for a moment. "Those assholes. I swear I didn't know, Mike. I really thought they'd changed." "I believe you," I said, "but now I need your help with something." Jake didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need, bro. I need to know exactly what financial ties I still have with them." It was time to dismantle everything. I'd been their financial safety net for too long without them even knowing it. Time to let them feel what life was like without me footing their bills. I started with the mortgage payments. I called my financial advisor the next morning and told him to halt all transfers immediately. "You sure about this, Mike?" he asked. "They're 3 months from foreclosure without your support." I was sure. The bank would send them a formal letter about their special payment arrangement ending, let them figure out how to cover the full amount themselves. Next was Haley's BMW. One call to the bank, and I explained that I wanted my name completely off the loan. The lady on the phone hesitated. "Sir, without your credit score backing this loan, they'll need to refinance at nearly double the current interest rate." Music to my ears. "That's fine," I said. "Also, please note that I'm withdrawing permission for any payment extensions. No more covering for their forgotten payments." The health insurance was trickier, but HR helped me remove them during what they called a life change event. I just said we had a falling out and they no longer lived with me part-time. My HR rep seemed relieved. She'd always thought it was weird I was covering for my parents when most people my age were still on their parents' insurance, not the other way around. I also went through my accounts and canceled all the smaller stuff, removed them from my Netflix, Amazon Prime, Spotify, changed all my passwords, even canceled the Costco membership I'd been paying for, that my mom loved to brag about to her friends. We get such good deals. I even called the fancy ryokan in Kyoto where they were staying and canceled the second week of their reservation, the part I'd paid for as a reconnection gift. They'd find themselves without accommodations halfway through their trip. The booking agent asked if I wanted a refund. "Absolutely," I said. Jake called the next day. "Holy hell, Mike, could you close the joint investment account too?" "What joint investment account?" Jake went quiet for a second. "You don't know about this? Your dad's been bragging to my dad about how you two have this investment account together, said it was your way of making amends for leaving." I nearly dropped my phone. I had set up an investment account right after college that had done pretty well, about $23,000 last I checked, but I'd forgotten about it during the move and chaos. Must have still been getting statements sent to my old address. I was at the bank within the hour. Sure enough, my parents had somehow added their names to the account. The bank manager looked uncomfortable as she pulled up the documents. "It appears your father became a joint owner last year. Do you recall authorizing this?" "Absolutely not." She slid the signature authorization form toward me. The signature looked like mine, but I hadn't signed anything like this, ever. "This is fraud," I said flatly. That pushed me to file fraud reports that would trigger an investigation. Let them explain that when they got back from their fancy vacation. By the time I was done, I'd reclaimed over $1,500 in monthly expenses I'd been paying for people who clearly didn't care about me, plus the $23,000 they'd tried to steal. The burden I'd been carrying for years was finally gone. I felt lighter, like I'd cut the last invisible strings they had attached to me, but I also knew the storm that was coming. They wouldn't take this lying down. Sure enough, about a week later, halfway through their trip, the messages started. First came Haley, "What the hell did you do? The hotel says our reservation for next week is canceled." I didn't respond. Then my dad, "There's some issue with our health insurance. The pharmacy says we're not covered anymore. Is this your doing?" My only response was to send a group text. "Hope you enjoyed your family vacation without me. Consider this my final goodbye. Don't contact me again." I blocked their numbers before they could respond. That night, Jay called me. "They're coming home early." The hotel thing really screwed them, and Haley's freaking out about the car payment. Apparently the bank wants an extra $900 a month now. Not my problem, I said. No, it's definitely not, Jake agreed. But you should know they're pissed, like nuclear pissed. My mom said your dad was ranting about making you pay. What's he going to do, loosen my brake lines again? I laughed, but it wasn't really funny. Just be careful, man. They might show up at your place when they get back. Jake was right. I needed to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. So, I installed a Ring doorbell camera and 2 additional security cameras covering my parking spot and the back entrance to my apartment. I made copies of all the financial records showing my support over the years, just in case they tried to spin some story to the extended family. I told my building security about the situation so they wouldn't let my family up without calling me first. I even warned Tara so she wouldn't accidentally let them in if she was at my place. They'd spent years making me feel like I wasn't good enough. Like I should be grateful for any scraps of attention or approval they threw my way. Now they were about to learn what it felt like to be cut off completely. And you know what? It felt damn good. 3 days later, I got a notification from my Ring camera that someone was at my door. I checked the app, and there they were, my parents, Haley and Jason, all looking pissed off and jet-lagged in my apartment hallway. I wasn't planning to open the door at first, but then I figured, why not face them? I'm not scared of these people anymore. So I let them in. My mom started right away. Michael, what is going on? First the hotel reservation, then the health insurance. Now the bank says our mortgage arrangement is canceled. Is this some kind of sick revenge? I just laughed. No, this is just me stopping the financial support you never knew about or appreciated. Seems fair since you guys clearly don't want me in the family anyway. My dad's face turned this weird shade of purple. What are you talking about? We've never taken a dime from you. That's when I pulled out the folder with all the receipts, literally bank statements showing my mortgage contributions, health insurance documents with them listed as my dependents, car payment records for Haley's BMW, everything. For 5 years I've been quietly helping all of you, even after you tried to kill me over Grandpa's car. And how do you repay me? By setting me up for humiliation at the airport. They all started talking at once, my dad denying everything, my mom crying about how they needed that help, Haley claiming the airport thing was just a joke that went too far. Jason, the asshole, had the nerve to say, look, we didn't know you were helping with the bills. That's on you for not telling us. And the airport thing was just to teach you a lesson about abandoning family. Abandoning family? I got right in his face. I left because you tampered with my brakes and could have killed me. What kind of family does that? That's ancient history, my mom tried to say. We've all grown since then. Really? Because from where I'm standing, you're the same selfish, manipulative people you've always been. The only difference is I'm not your ATM anymore. Haley started crying, saying they were going to lose the house. Her car was going to be repossessed, and it was all my fault. Classic Haley, always the victim. Not my problem, I told her. Maybe Jason shouldn't have blown your savings on crypto if he's such a financial genius. Jason lunged at me then, but my dad held him back. Not out of concern for me, I'm sure, but because he knew I'd press charges in a heartbeat. We're family. My dad tried one last time. You can't just cut us off like this. Actually, I can, and I have. You're not my family anymore. You're just people I used to know who treated me like garbage. Now get out before I call the cops. They left, but not before Haley tried one last guilt trip. You'll regret this when you have no one. I'd rather have no one than have you, I told her as I closed the door. After they left, I felt this weird sense of peace, like I'd finally closed a chapter that should have ended years ago. Jake called later that night. Apparently, my parents and Haley had been calling everyone in the family, spinning some sob story about how I was financially abusing them. Most people weren't buying it, especially after Jake shared what really happened at the airport. The best part? My Aunt Carol, who's always been close to my mom, actually took my side. She told my mom, if you treat your son like that, what did you expect? Actions have consequences, Linda. That gave me a weird sense of validation, like maybe I wasn't crazy for cutting them off. With that in mind, I was starting to settle into the idea of moving on, keeping my distance, and focusing on my own life. But just when I thought the dust had finally settled, life threw another curve. About a month after the Japan disaster, I was grabbing coffee before work last Thursday when my phone rang. It was my Uncle Frank, my dad's brother, who I'd always gotten along with pretty well before all the family drama. Mike, got a minute to talk? I hesitated. Was this another family member trying to guilt me into making up with my parents? What's up, Frank? Jake told me what happened. The airport thing, that was some seriously messed up stuff they pulled on you. I was surprised by his tone. Yeah, it was. Listen, I know you probably don't want anything to do with the family right now, but I need to tell you something. Your dad's been spreading all kinds of crap about you, saying you had a mental breakdown and cut them off for no reason. That sounded like my dad, always the victim. But I know the truth, Frank continued. Your dad's always been jealous of you, you know. You remind him too much of your grandfather, who never thought Bob was good enough. What are you talking about? Why do you think your grandfather left you the Mustang? He saw himself in you, not in your dad. Bob's never forgiven either of you for that. The pieces were finally coming together. The favoritism toward Haley wasn't just random. It was my dad's way of getting back at his own father through me, and my mom had gone along with it because she always followed Dad's lead. Your grandpa used to tell me how proud he was of you, Frank said. Said you had real grit, unlike your dad who always took the easy way out. We talked for almost an hour, with Frank filling in gaps about family history I never knew. By the end of the call, he hit me with a proposition, payback. Since my Japan trip had been ruined, he suggested we actually go, just without the family drama. Me, him, Jake, and his son Chris using his airline miles from work. But the best part? He wanted to invite my parents and Haley too, except we'd book their flights from a completely different airport, 5 hours away, letting them experience a taste of their own medicine. The idea was so perfectly petty, I couldn't help but laugh. Over the next few weeks, Frank worked his magic. He called my parents and Haley, telling them he wanted to heal the family divide with a trip to Hawaii. They'd have to drive to Chicago for their flight. We live near Denver, but Frank sold it as the only way to get direct flights with his miles. Meanwhile, we booked our own flights from Denver, scheduled to leave 2 days before theirs. The day of their flight, Frank sent me a screenshot of a text from my dad. Traffic is horrible, might miss the flight. Can you call the airline? That's when I sent Haley, have a nice trip home, losers. I had to, and then I blocked them all. We spent an amazing week in Hawaii. I posted exactly one photo online, the 4 of us at a luau, with the caption, "Best family vacation ever." The likes and comments came flooding in from everyone except my parents and Haley. My buddy Chris texted me, "Dude, your sister is pissed about that Hawaii pic." She was at the bar last night ranting about it. Good, let her be pissed. I was too busy enjoying paradise with people who actually cared about me. The Hawaii trip was exactly what I needed, a chance to actually enjoy myself without walking on eggshells around toxic family members. We got back to Denver feeling refreshed, and I was ready to move on with my life. But that feeling lasted about 12 hours. I woke up the next morning and headed out to my car to go to work. What I found in the parking lot made my blood run cold. My car, not just any car, but my grandfather's Mustang that he'd left me, was sitting there, completely destroyed. All 4 tires slashed, every single window smashed in, and spray painted across the side in bright red letters, "You shouldn't have messed with our property." For a second, I couldn't breathe. This car was the one thing I had from my grandfather, the only family member who'd ever truly been on my side. We'd spent hundreds of hours restoring it together before he died. I called the police immediately. While waiting for them to arrive, I remembered the security cameras I'd installed after Jake warned me they might try something. I quickly pulled up the app on my phone, and there it was. Crystal clear footage from 3 a.m., showing my parents and Haley's husband, Jason, taking turns vandalizing my car. The video showed everything in perfect detail. My dad slashing the tires while my mom nervously kept watch. Jason smashing the windows with a baseball bat. Haley spraying the message on the side, taking a selfie next to her artwork when she was done. I was in shock for most of the day. Frank came over that night after I called him. He watched the security footage and turned red with anger. "Those stupid, vindictive assholes," he muttered. "Bob's always had a temper, but this is criminal, literally." "The cops said they're looking at felony charges," I said. Frank shook his head. "Good. Maybe they'll finally learn actions have consequences." Not only did I file a police report, but Uncle Frank talked me into sending the security footage to the local news in my parents' town. His exact words, "They love playing the upstanding citizen act. Let's see how they like it when everyone sees the real them." And the news station ate it up. Their lead story was literally prominent local couple arrested for vandalizing son's car after family dispute. They ran the footage on the evening news, so by the next morning, everyone in their small-town social circle had seen my oh-so-respectable, church-going parents going full GTA on my car. But the best part? They got arrested at their country club during Sunday brunch, in front of all their fancy friends. According to Uncle Frank, who heard it from his golf buddy who was there, people had their phones out recording the whole thing, so, yeah, actions meet consequences. The charges were serious: felony vandalism, criminal mischief, and because they'd crossed state lines to commit the crime, Federal charges were being considered. Jason got the worst of it. He was already on probation for a DUI last year, so this violated his terms. He was held without bail, while my parents managed to post bond. Haley called me, sobbing, the day after they were arrested. "How could you do this to us?" she wailed, like somehow I was the bad guy for having security cameras and reporting a crime. "Me? You destroyed Grandpa's car, Haley. The car you guys already tried to kill me over once before. It was Jason's idea. He was drunk and angry about the Hawaii thing. Mom and Dad just went along because they were upset. Well, now you're all going to face the consequences," I said and hung up. Sometimes I think that's the moment when I truly, finally cut the emotional cord with my family. Not when I drove away 5 years ago, not when they left me at the airport, but when they deliberately destroyed the one thing they knew meant the world to me. And all because I stopped being their personal ATM. The criminal charges forced my parents and Haley's husband to hire expensive lawyers, draining what little savings they had left after I cut off my financial support. Without my help covering their mortgage and other bills, things spiraled quickly. Their mortgage payments fell behind. Credit card companies started calling. Their precious country club membership was revoked due to unpaid dues, and the whole getting arrested on the property thing. Meanwhile, I filed an insurance claim for the car, but it wasn't just about the money. That car was irreplaceable, and they knew it. That's exactly why they targeted it. Within 6 months, my parents had to put their house on the market, the same house they'd bragged about at every family gathering, with its designer kitchen and newly renovated master bath that I'd helped pay for. They ended up in a small ranch house on the other side of town, the area they used to make fun of as not suitable for our kind of people. On top of that, my mom had to sell her prized antique collection to cover their legal fees. Each piece she'd spent years collecting and refused to let anyone touch, now sold for pennies on the dollar at some rushed estate sale. Dad had to come out of retirement to work as a security guard at the same mall where he used to shop for his designer suits. Mom, who'd never worked a day in her life, started selling MLM crap on Facebook, desperately trying to look like they still had money. Even Haley and Jason's marriage didn't survive. He ended up serving 6 months for the vandalism since it violated his probation. When he got out, Haley told him she wanted a divorce. According to Frank, Jason had gambled away most of their savings anyway, so their fancy lifestyle was already crumbling before the car incident. The family completely fractured after all this. Most relatives took my side, especially after the vandalism thing. Even some who had initially stayed neutral couldn't defend what they'd done when they saw the security footage. Uncle Frank became something of a surrogate father to me, calling weekly to check in and inviting me to family events where my parents weren't welcome. Jake and I grew even closer, and his parents, my aunt and uncle on my mom's side, stopped talking to my mom altogether. About a year after the car incident, I got an envelope in the mail, no return address, but I recognized my mom's handwriting immediately. Inside was a 5-page handwritten letter about how sorry they were, how they'd learned their lesson and missed their son. There was a lot of religious stuff about forgiveness and family being forever. I returned it unopened with return to sender, address unknown written across it. Some bridges, once they're burned, should stay burned. Frank called me a few days later. "Your mom's telling everyone you refused to even read her apology letter." "Yep," I said. "Good for you," he replied. "That letter wasn't an apology anyway. Your dad was bragging at my poker game that they were going to make things right and get you to help them financially again. That was the final confirmation I needed that I'd made the right choice. They hadn't changed at all, they just wanted their ATM back. These days, I'm doing better than ever. All the money I used to waste supporting them now goes into my own investments and travel fund. Tara moved in with me last month, and we're talking about getting married next year. My car insurance paid out for the Mustang, and while I couldn't replace Grandpa's original car, I found another 67 that I'm slowly restoring. It's not the same, but there's something therapeutic about working on it, like I'm honoring his memory. I still get updates about my parents occasionally through the family grapevine. They've apparently found a church that's big on family reconciliation and keep telling people I'm going through a phase. Haley moved to Chicago after her divorce and barely speaks to them anymore. Sometimes my mother still tries to reach out through mutual acquaintances, usually when she needs money. I always send back the same message: "Have a nice trip home, losers." Petty? Probably. But it reminds me how far I've come and how much better life is without toxic people, even if they're family. The hardest part wasn't finding out my parents could be such jerks. It was accepting that I deserved better. Now I have better, and I'm never looking back.